Good evening, everybody. This is The Spread. I am Cameron Tarrant. With me, as always, SoCon John Hooper here on this Tuesday night edition of The Spread. John, with you up in Asheville over the weekend for the SoCon tournament, couldn't quite get the I think it was too loud in the
Yeah,
Coliseum there to do
yeah,
it. But looking forward to being back on the show tonight. A great tournament that we're going to talk a lot about tonight, John.
yeah. It was a good tournament. Kind of, on that one side of the bracket was kind of crazy. I mean, the
Yeah.
upset bracket, and then UNCG on the other side. You know, took care of business and got to the championship game, and for the second year in a row, you had a 7 versus a 1 seed, which is really interesting.
Did not see Mercer making it that far, but congratulations to them. Even though they came up
Yeah,
a little short, we'll talk about that. It was a good run for the Bears. So a great weekend, John. The last 4 days were really exciting in the Southern Conference men's basketball tournament. So let's just kind of go through it. Well, let's start at the beginning on Friday night. It all started. The Citadel, Western Carolina, got us underway, and the Citadel got a big win. We didn't expect. We thought Western Carolina would probably take that one pretty easily, but the Citadel dropping 3 digits on Western in that one.
67 points in the second half.
Yeah,
And 73% shooting.
it's unbelievable.
Um, so I mean, fittingly, they get to the 100-year celebration of the Southern Conference, and
Yeah,
I guess it was the 101st tournament, but like the league just turned 100. Um, so a good job by the Citadel. Hayden Brown with another big game, and I think they had 5 or 6 guys in double figures. But Hayden Brown, who fouled out with like 5 or 6 minutes left, still ended up having like 19 points and I think 13 rebounds in that one. And for Western Carolina, obviously Mason Faulkner
yeah.
played
He had a big game, but it just wasn't enough because their defense just could not stop.
right. There was I think they hit 9 threes in the second half, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a stretch there in the second half where like they made like maybe 7 or 8 shots in a row. And
Wow.
um, they just got into a groove, and
Yeah.
Western really had no answer for it.
Dropping 100 on Western Carolina to
And
advance
that
out of the
was
first round.
what the only team to drop 100 in the SoCon tournament.
Which is incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
all year though, they've been known for shooting the
yeah,
three.
right.
They've been good at
Just
that all
you wouldn't expect 67 of it to come in the second half.
year. Some teams didn't even score that in an entire game in the
Right,
tournament.
exactly. Samford, I mean,
Yeah, yes, what is one of them. Speaking of Samford, we figured that the Bulldogs probably wouldn't have enough or couldn't get it done against Mercer. Mercer easily winning in that first round to move on 87-59, nearly a 20-point win for the Bears. And the beginning of this stretch run for Mercer here in the tournament.
yeah, they really got. I thought Leon Ayers the third and Neftali Alvarez really played well throughout the tournament, and I think they got off to a really good start. Ross Cummings, their best player throughout the season. He struggled a little bit
Yeah.
in the tournament. I think he only had 2 points in the first, or the couple against Wofford, and I believe in the semifinal game. So he struggled a little bit, but he did. I think he reached double figures against Samford. Um, so I thought it was a complete team effort by
Yeah.
Mercer to get the victory, and kind of. I always feel like the team that opens up with a game like that to kind of just really break a sweat is an advantage. Facing who would be the next night, I guess Wofford. Um, and really jumped out of that game. And then Wofford charged back to take as much as like a 4 or 5 point lead late, and then Mercer gets a big and one from Neftali Alvarez late in that game to get
Yeah,
a victory.
and look, Mercer opened up the tournament shooting the ball well, and that continued for them for most of the until the second
Yeah,
half of the finals.
right.
They really shot the ball well and got a big win to open up and move on to face Wofford, which you just mentioned that game there in the quarterfinals. Wofford, Mercer got up to a pretty sizable lead there
Was it
early on,
17 points in the
something
first?
like. Let's see. It was 40-23 at halftime. Like they were
Right.
up big against Wofford, which I did not see coming. You picked
Yeah.
Mercer to win the game.
Right. When Wofford came back, I was like, oh, well, Mercer's going to give it a good effort, but Wofford's going to come back and, win and make this. But to their credit, I mean, even though
Yeah,
Wofford took a 4 or 5 point lead there, Mercer never went away.
and look, Wofford in a big part coming back due to their playmaker Storm Murphy. One of the big guys in that second half to come back and lead Wofford to that near comeback against Mercer. News that he's going to be transferring out after this year. The senior.
Yeah, and talking to some of their reporters, I think one of their student reporters said he felt like that, while it's not official, he felt like maybe Virginia Tech would be a place that he
Yeah,
could land, which makes sense. I mean, and I think you're going to see that from a lot of guys in the SoCon, who had that free grad year or transfer year. I know Parham from VMI already said he was transferring out. So there's been a number of guys that have already kind of gone into the transfer portal that get that free senior year, so to speak.
So it'd be interesting to see how Wofford replaces guys like that next year. I know they've got a lot of talent, but
right,
it's a big pieces going to be missing, especially on the
yeah,
offensive side next
certainly.
year.
I mean, I felt like he was one of the better, point guards in mid-major basketball.
Yep.
Just shooting wise, if you look at what he does, even I think he's an underrated defender. So, I think I'll be shocked if he doesn't go to Virginia Tech, but you want to see if he does go there. I think it'll be a huge get for Mike Young and I'll support SoCon players whoever make their
Yeah.
decision to go elsewhere. Certainly want to see them do well, and I think it looks good on the league as far as how they've recruited and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was on Saturday. Also on Saturday, we got to see the number 1 seed in action. They took on the Citadel. UNCG got going, and the Citadel played them really, really tough. And there for a little bit, it looked like the Citadel might actually pull it off. But UNCG, in part thanks to guys like Isaiah Miller, able to just sort of give them enough space there at the end to get the win and to move on to the semis.
Yeah, boy, Isaiah Miller is fun to watch.
And what a tournament he had.
Right. And somebody made the point, like if he decided to play like corner in the NFL, he'd be like a great cornerback because of his athleticism and speed. But what a wonderful talent he's been for. I think he won it as a freshman and won it as a senior at UNCG. So he kind of bookended his career with tournament titles. And it'll be interesting to see how the NCAA seeds them when they get there. But something we can talk about maybe a little bit later on. But they're so good defensively. And the Citadel, I felt like, in that game there was a point in that game where in the second half with about 5 or 6 minutes left, Hayden Brown dunks it, gets a technical, and then the game kind of changed. And UNCG went on a little run to close out the game there, and they were a little bit motivated by that, I think. And so, but I think I will say the Citadel really gave him maybe as good a test as anybody in the tournament did.
Yeah, definitely. Up until I think Mercer last night. Yeah, I
Right.
think you're right. So UNCG moved on to the semis. Who would they face? ETSU, Chattanooga. You really liked ETSU in the game. I actually picked Chattanooga to go all the way to the finals, but there goes the Bucks, able to pull out a 10-point victory against the Mocs in a game where these two teams they've played each other a couple times this year. They don't like each
Don't
other.
like each other. No.
It was a battle in this one as well.
And Chattanooga's defense, they didn't have Malachi Smith
Yeah,
and Darius Banks, who were two of their best players because of COVID positive tests, I guess, and that hurt them obviously. I think Malachi Smith was one of the leaders in double doubles in the SoCon all year. And, he's really a first team guy. I mean, so you're missing your leading scorer and one of your best rebounders.
yeah,
That's going to hurt. And to the credit of Chattanooga, though, they came out and grabbed like an 11-2 lead or something, and ETSU had to fight back pretty much the whole way. And finally, in the second half, they just wore down Chattanooga and were able to get the win.
yeah. It was a good defensive performance by ETSU. I mean, Chattanooga only 53 points in that one. They were not able to really shoot the ball. And then, John, there was the one on Saturday night that we were both looking forward to and a little disappointed of how it turned out with a 1-point loss for Furman at the hands of VMI in overtime. A really good game. I mean, both teams battled hard. And yet again, Furman just on the wrong side of a game against VMI this year.
Well, and it was the two games to end the season, two 1-point, devastating losses,
Yeah.
and heartbreaking fashion. But Furman takes a 71-56 lead, I believe, with 8:42 left, and they even had a 73-59 lead. So really disappointing to let a lead like that get away, and you just really can't let up off the gas pedal against a team like VMI because they shoot it so well, and Parham's such a great player as far as getting in the paint and penetrating and breaking down a defense. So they were able to have some success doing that, and when he had success doing that, then they were able to kick it out to guys like Jake Stevens, who hit a couple key threes, as well as Conway, I believe, hit a couple. So they're really, really good offensively, similar to Furman. But I really thought, even though Furman missed some shots down the stretch, I think their defense is what kind of failed them.
Yeah.
In a stretch run of that.
Yeah,
game.
I mean, look, Furman didn't shoot the ball, badly. The almost 50% from the floor. What they had 44% from behind the arc. I mean, guys, Noah Gurley had a huge night, 30 points for him.
Yeah.
Bothwell, Hunter all had double.
They all. I mean, they played well enough offensively to win the game. I mean, you scored. Yeah, it was defensively. That's kind of been the problem. That was kind of the problem all season. Furman's offensively routinely shot in 50% per game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was getting key stops and key moments that they had trouble with.
Yeah, and it hurt them there in the quarterfinals against VMI. So VMI moved on, faced Mercer, and then Mercer just keeps rolling along.
And VMI had a shooting night, similar to what I thought they might have against Furman, coming off such a long layoff.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Leon Ayers for Mercer, another good night for him in that one on Sunday.
He really came of age, I think, for Mercer in the tournament. Not a name that you heard a lot about during the season, but really stepped up and had a nice tournament. And I'll be interested to see, if he lands on any preseason all-conference teams. I'm pretty sure he was all-tournament, first team all-tournament. So, that'll be interesting to see. I know he was a guy that was, I want to say, recruited by maybe Wofford, and I don't know if Furman recruited him, but I know Wofford wanted him and the James Glisson was another guy that
Yeah.
had a pretty good tournament. So Mercer's got a lot coming back if they can keep Neftali Alvarez and, if Felipe Hasse, if they both come back, I think the only guy they really lose that's a point production type guy is Ross Cummings if he should decide to move on.
Yeah.
Of the,
So Mercer able to get to the finals. Not probably a lot of people did not expect them to be there. Who would they face? ETSU or UNCG? And that question was answered with UNCG. A big win. Isaiah Miller again, another great performance against
a big step back three at the end of the half gave them a 1 point lead at halftime, and I thought maybe changed the game right there, the momentum.
Yeah, because ETSU was never able to really recover after that.
Right. ETSU had I want to say like a 28-22 lead in the first half. And they were playing well. And then, Miller has that just ridiculous dunk from like outside the cylinder.
Yes.
And that was just like, wow. I mean, when you saw that, I was just like, wow, that probably is a momentum, that's huge momentum for UNCG. And after that, it kind of went on, and ETSU missed some shots there down the stretch. But, a decent night from the Brewers, just not enough, I guess, made shots when they needed them. And that was, whereas Furman's struggles were defensively a lot this year, ETSU struggles were offensively and getting,
funny enough, I mean, both ETSU and UNCG had those issues offensively this year. And look, it was a fairly low scoring game, all things considered, for a basketball game. Defense, UNCG's defense really stepped up again big there in the tournament. So they moved on. Mercer set up a Mercer UNCG finals. And John, what a great game last night! I mean,
it really was
fantastic one. Even though UNCG came out on top with an 8-point win, really up until maybe 3 or 4 minutes left to go in the game, it really could have gone either way.
Yeah, it could have. I mean, it was I felt like UNCG left some opportunities with missed free throws down the stretch there.
Yeah.
Where and Mercer came away with empty possessions where they could have cut into like a 6-point lead or a 5-point lead that UNCG had, and weren't ever really able to trim that lead down. But a great champ. I felt like Mercer ran out of gas a little bit.
Yeah.
Understandably so, but played well enough to keep themselves in the game. Just some careless turnovers and just missed shots down the stretch.
Yeah, that ended up killing them, but they were right there. They actually were 1 point down at the half.
Yeah.
Then it just seemed like you said, they sort of ran out of gas down the stretch. But a great year. I mean, all things considered, not a bad year for Mercer. To make it, to have the run that they did there in the tournament, to get to the finals, and nearly able
it kind of offset what was a little bit of a disappointing regular season for them. But
they showed in the tournament when they're clicking, they're hard to beat.
Right. And so I think and they actually, exceeded their win total of last year by 1 game. I think they won 18 this year and won 17 last year. So all in all, I mean, more positives than negatives come out of this season for Greg Gary.
Absolutely. And Mercer should be happy with the season they had. The Citadel should also be happy with where they were a year ago to where they finished up.
First winning season since 2008-9, I believe.
That's big. I mean, that's huge for them. So they should be proud. Look, ETSU had a very good year. Chattanooga, not a bad year. If I'm Furman and Wofford, I'm a little disappointed in how the season sort of wrapped up both of those teams, especially with the expectations that both of those teams had coming into.
And if Furman can keep their guys coming back, I mean, they have a chance to be really good again. I mean, they got Slauson, Alex Hunter, Noah Gurley, and Mike Bothwell all coming back. And with the recruiting class they have coming in, you would think they could at least be picked in the top 3 or 4 again in the SoCon next year.
For next year. All right, John, biggest takeaway from the tournament?
I think the biggest takeaway for me was, it's funny because the pandemic, you kind of had the pandemic bracket where I call it the upset bracket, but like anything could happen. And then you had the team in UNC Greensboro who was picked to win the conference by the coaches. So you had the whole dynamic play out this year. I think Mercer was representative of how much the league had improved.
Yeah.
And I think UNCG was still, they still had enough as a top tier team in the SoCon to kind of survive and get to be crowned champions. And I think that, but the gap is closing, right? So there was only one team that ended the season with a below 500 record in the SoCon. So my takeaway from it is the league is getting better and stronger.
Oh, absolutely.
And the big dynamic going into the offseason is, can East Tennessee, can Furman, can UNCG, can Wofford continue, their success, or will some of those, middle tier teams be able to overcome them and take one of the spots in the top 4 or 5 of the league?
Any chance the SoCon squeaks in 2 in the tournament, in the big dance?
No, not this year. Even though, I think if there was a normal NIT, obviously there's only going to be 16 teams, but if there were the normal 32 or whatever, I think the SoCon team would get in there. But yeah, I think a good year for the league. They're going to finish higher, I think, ranked overall in the old RPI system than maybe they were even last year or 2 years ago. So a good year and something to go build on. And when you're getting your final game on ESPN this year, finally, and not on ESPN2 or some of the other networks.
Yeah, right.
That's saying something about the visibility and what nationally your league has made strides in that respect. So as long as they can stay there, I think it'll be good.
Absolutely. All right, real quick, I want to kind of see what we're thinking as far as, too early to tell, John. Who do you like next year?
It's a tough question.
The season just ended. The season just ended yesterday.
It's hard not to like Furman and East and Mercer. I mean, Mercer's got everybody back. Furman should return everybody. So those would be like my 2 teams to kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I sort of like ETSU up there.
Yeah, ETSU as well. So I think your top 3 in some order would be Mercer, ETSU, and Furman coming into the year. Most people's top 3, assuming everybody stays and things hold serve. I think UNCG replacing Isaiah Miller is not going to be easy. They always seem to recruit well, though. So I'll be interested to see what happens at Chattanooga. Whether some of their, John Baptiste, if he comes back, or what happens with all the free senior years out there.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it was a weird year, John, because of the pandemic. You're not your normal basketball season by any means, but look, it was a lot of fun. It was competitive. You never knew what was going to happen night to night. Literally during the regular season, anybody could beat anybody.
Right.
And it showed that in the tournament as well. I mean, really, it was up for grabs. Anybody really could have.
Right. I don't know. Was Samford and there were only 2 double-digit games?
Samford or
3, I guess 3.
Yeah, ETSU beat Chattanooga by 10.
That's right. And there was a double-digit 12-point between ETSU and UNCG. That's right.
And the Citadel had the 17-point.
That's right.
So,
but interestingly enough, the back-to-back 1-point quarterfinal games is the first time that's ever happened in SoCon tournament history. So
wow,
kind of crazy.
Big year for the SoCon. Hopefully UNCG can represent the league
Yeah.
well in the big dance coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll find out shortly.
Wonder
When
what kind of seed they would get. Maybe hopefully like a 12, probably a
Yeah,
13, maybe something like
something like
that.
that. So looking forward to whenever the bracket is released. So the SoCon tournament ended yesterday. John, the ACC tournament just got kicked off today. So we'll kind of
With
go.
a mouth-watering matchup between Boston College and Duke.
Look, Pittsburgh, Miami. How about that one?
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Pittsburgh and Miami. And tonight we got Notre Dame, Wake Forest.
Ooh, go Steve Forbes.
Yeah, Wake Forest, the worst team in the ACC this year.
Yeah,
14th seed.
that's been a tough year. What are they? 6 and like 13 or 14, maybe.
Something like that. I don't have their, but yeah, it was not a good run. But
I love to see him, win a couple of games
yeah, Miami already beating Pittsburgh tonight. They move today, so they move on to take on
they play
Clemson.
Clemson.
Clemson
Yeah.
tomorrow in the second round. Duke beating Boston College. They'll go and play Louisville tomorrow, and we'll see who North Carolina faces, either Notre Dame.
So North Carolina's a 5 seed, is that right?
North Carolina is the 6 seed.
The 6 seed, okay.
Clemson is the 5 seed.
Clemson's a 5.
Clemson's the 5. Tomorrow you also get to Syracuse, North Carolina State.
Syracuse is one of those teams on the bubble right now
and the winner of that game takes on 1 seed Virginia.
Yeah, and Syracuse is a team that's really played well, and they had that win over Clemson. They've been playing well lately, so they probably need to. I think they need to win probably one game to secure probably an NCAA tournament berth. Maybe one win, certainly a win over Virginia would be enough to do it. But
Clemson got smoked by Virginia in the regular season.
So. Yes. So I don't foresee that happening. But
yeah.
But I think Clemson's already in. I was more talking about Syracuse. I think. Syracuse, if they can get a win, who does Syracuse play?
They got to NC State tomorrow.
Okay, so I think that's a winnable. I think it's a winnable game. If they.
Yeah, you there, John? Sorry, we kind of broke up there for a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah, certainly. I think if they get 2 wins, they'll be in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. And looking at Clemson, obviously they've beaten Miami a couple times in the regular season this year already.
One of them was a pretty close game, right?
Yeah, I think it was either the first game or the second one. One of them was pretty close. But they'll take on them tomorrow. If they can win that game, then they get a matchup with Georgia Tech, which I find really interesting.
That's not been a good matchup this year.
But they did the last time they played. Clemson was able to get the win there. So yeah. I would be interested to see if they could get there. And then
Georgia Tech's kind of one of those teams that some people say they're in, some people say no. I feel like they're probably in. And that's a team that's really played well. I think their guards, Parham, who was a transfer from VMI, is a good shooter.
Yeah.
Is it Moore? I believe is their other guard, Malik Moore. So they got some good players and good shooters. They're a very guard-oriented team. But I think they're a team that if Clemson is able to win and get past Miami and then, beats Georgia Tech, I mean, certainly they're playing with house's money then, so to speak. I think Clemson could go a long way in this tournament.
Yeah, I think Clemson could make a little bit of a run if they can get past Miami, maybe, see what they can do against Georgia Tech. That worries me then. If they beat Georgia Tech, then they either face – they'll probably end up facing Virginia. I don't like that matchup at all in the semifinals.
Virginia. So who does Virginia plays the Syracuse NC State winner?
Yeah, Virginia's got the Syracuse NC State game winner.
How did Syracuse do against Virginia during the regular season? That was because I want to say that matchup could be interesting. I know Syracuse had problems with COVID like early on in the season, and seemed like they were shut down for like a month.
All right, so Virginia beat Syracuse back on January 25th, 81-58.
Ooh. So Virginia, what you're telling me is Virginia boat raced both potential opponents.
They beat North Carolina. No, they lost to North Carolina State.
That's right. They lost to North Carolina
61 on February 24th.
And that game was at Virginia, right?
They split this. They played 2 games against NC State. They split them 1-1.
Okay.
Against the Pack. So, yeah, North Carolina State might have Virginia's number. So if they could beat Syracuse, that might be intriguing. John, how about this? The winner of Louisville Duke will play Florida State.
Ooh. Yeah, Louisville, Florida State was a really good game early in the year. I think Louisville. I mean, I don't see how. I think Louisville beats Duke. I mean, I think that's
other than Boston College. Duke has gotten beat by pretty much everybody this year.
So I think a Louisville Florida State matchup might be one of your better matchups as the ACC.
And then, depending on who wins the Notre Dame Wake Forest game, they'll play North Carolina tomorrow. The winner of that game will play Virginia Tech.
And ACC Coach of the Year Mike Young from Virginia Tech. They had a great year, and I guess Virginia Tech's a 4 or the 3 seed.
Virginia Tech is the 3. Florida State's the 2.
All right, so, I like that Wake Forest, North Carolina. If Wake Forest found a way to beat Notre Dame, I mean, North Carolina and Wake, they played a decent game during the regular season. That would be an interesting matchup to me. I think North Carolina is better, but I don't think they're the North Carolina we all have known, obviously.
None of the North Carolina basketball teams have been that good this year.
No, except for like the ancillary North Carolina. App State and UNC Greensboro. Elon with a chance to go to the tournament tonight.
Amazing.
So that's been kind of funny to watch, I think, in a way. Because like UNCG and App State are now locks for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, how about that, man? Your alma mater getting back to the big dance.
21 years.
21 years since App State's been to the NCAA tournament, and they lock up the Sun Belt yesterday.
How about that? They had to go from the play-in day, to the whole. They won what? They played a whole extra game than Georgia State did.
Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible. I mean, who would have thought in the Sun Belt that you'd have Coastal Carolina winning football and App State winning in basketball?
2020, 2021 has been a weird calendar sports.
Now, if you just said it in the reverse, like Coastal winning basketball and, App winning in football, that'd have been totally more believable. But what Coach Kearns has done at App State's been pretty remarkable, and getting that turned around. I feel like sometimes at App State and prior to him getting there, there were pandemic-like crowds, even though there was no COVID.
Yeah.
So maybe in a way we were prepared for that, I mean,
something else. But the ACC tournament in full swing. Here, in the next couple of weeks, John, we should know who's going to the NCAA tournament. The brackets. I don't know when the brackets being revealed. If they always do a special. They always do a special
it's on Sunday. Well, if everything goes right, it'll be a week from this past Sunday. So it looks as though there was a question of whether a lot of those big tournaments would have their tournament because you don't want to test positive for COVID.
Yeah.
Less than 2 weeks out from. But it looks like the Big Ten and all those are going to go ahead and have their tournaments now, and which is always good. I love this week for that.
The
You
Big
get to
Ten
see the.
tournament should be a lot of fun to watch.
Hey, did you see any of the highlights last night? Oral Roberts gets a buzzer beater over South Dakota State in a crazy game.
Did not.
Um, that's Did you see the game on? Was it Sunday where we had Houston hits the midcourt buzzer beater to beat Memphis?
I did see that
That
replay.
was crazy. And I'm watching that game live, and I'm just like, wow, this is March. It's pretty awesome.
I'm ready for the NCAA tournament to start. That was one of the big things we missed last year, John.
Oh yeah.
So
everybody did. That was like the national depression that we did not have the NCAA tournament.
So fingers crossed, we'll have it this year. Everything goes smoothly. All right, John. We hadn't talked about last weekend's football. Since Thursday we did the preview and everything. But what an interesting week in FCS football this past weekend, John. Especially in the Southern Conference. Week 3, man, there was some wild finishes around the league in the Southern Conference. We'll start with the one game that wasn't close. VMI just completely ran all over Western Carolina.
Yeah, and Bridie, the running back there, you brought up, had a nice day running the football, and something he wasn't really allowed to do against Furman. He had a breakout game against Western Carolina, and that game wasn't ever really close, I don't think. And
Udinsky had another nice day passing the ball. I mean, everything's just clicking right now, it seems like, for VMI.
This may be VMI's best team in 30 or 40 years. I mean,
we were joking about it before the show. They might not lose a game.
Right. Yeah. They're solid. And
they are.
What's really surprising is how good their defense is. I'm not shocked that they're good offensively. They were good offensively last year. What's been the surprise is their defense.
Well, and offensively, I figured they'd be pretty good, but I wondered how they would be without the running back
Alex Ramsey,
they had last year, that 1-2 punch with him and Udinsky. But it looks like they're just going to reload and keep going, much like they did last year.
Yeah, they're good, and that they've got, I think, maybe the best offensive coordinator in the SoCon, one of the best in FCS football, and Brian Shepard. And hats off to him for figuring out a way to get, the ball to a guy like Bridie in a lot of different situations, and not just, like they were so Ramsey-centric last year. But they do have a lot of weapons. Jacob Harris is a great receiver that they've got that they can throw to. So they got a lot of different things on offense that you have to prepare for as if you're a defensive coordinator.
And then meanwhile, the woes continue up in Cullowhee. I mean, it's
been a bad
defensively, they just have not been able to put it together.
Yeah, and you saw flashes of them doing a little bit offensively, I guess, last week against Samford, but this week they met with the similar struggles that they had against Furman, just not really able to generate any kind of offensive cohesion, and that cost them. That's cost them a couple of games, but they do have, I think, the ability to make some big plays. They got some big play guys and Donovan Spencer and Daquan Patton, but it's just really hard for a new quarterback coming into that system to be consistent just right off the bat.
Yeah. So VMI off to a 2-0 start. Western Carolina drops to 0-3 now in this spring season. If you don't go back to last year, whether they're 0-7 or something now, you go back to 0-6. But 0-3 here in this spring season. So VMI, a big win. But John, the fireworks in the SoCon it just exploded with the Chattanooga Citadel game, which did not expect that.
UTC goes for 2. Which is like, it's
Yeah.
funny because they've done it the last 3 years. They've won on 2-point conversions in that game.
It's amazing. I don't know what it is about the Citadel, but Chattanooga, you're getting scrapped.
Rusty
Look,
Wright's 3 for 3 on 2-point conversions against the Citadel the past 3 years.
if I'm the Citadel's coaching staff, I'm preparing for the 2-point conversion.
I'm just going to start next year's game. I'm just going to start by not even kicking an extra point and going for 2 if I'm Citadel.
Yeah, that's amazing. But no, I mean, look, Chattanooga looked like they had it rolling early. Looked like it was
what was it?
17-7 at one point. Thought Chattanooga was just going to put it away early, and then all of a sudden, here comes the Citadel, a team that didn't win at all in the fall, and then started off last week with just a bad loss as well.
Yeah.
So not a good win or loss to Mercer. And here they come. They got it going in the second half. They tie it up. They go to overtime. The Citadel actually takes the lead in overtime.
24-17. And then
and then the Chattanooga decides to go for 2, and they win it. But what I find so fascinating is
I always think that Rusty Wright must have like dinner reservations at one of the seafood places in Charleston. So like he needs to go for 2 to get there, like, I don't know.
I would have loved to have been on like Chattanooga message boards had they not gotten that 2-point conversion.
Well, I mean, then Rusty Wright would have been like, well, hey, 2 out of 3. I mean, that's still pretty good. I mean, like, it's like he was, the riverboat Rusty, riverboat gambler Rusty down there in Charleston.
And look, Chattanooga 2-0. And we didn't know they didn't even want to play this spring, and now they're 2-0.
Yeah, 2-0. I like that riverboat Rusty. We're gonna go.
There you go. That's a new that you should reach out to Coach Wright and tell him you got a new nickname for him.
Well, I mean, like, it is bizarre that so like 2 years ago, the play call was a pass back to the quarterback. So they literally threw like a ball across to Bryce Nunley, who then threw it back to the quarterback, Nick Tiano, in the end zone. So it was like a trick play.
Yeah.
And I just think it's pretty awesome that you'd be hard pressed to find another coach in Division I football that's 3 for 3 on 2-point conversions. It's against the same team in 3 consecutive years.
Yeah, that's some weird stat that I'm sure like
yeah, the Chattanooga SID's checking with the NCAA to see if that's happened.
Ever happened before. 3 years in a row. That doesn't happen too often. So that was that game, John. Wild ending in the Chattanooga Citadel game. And then right here in Greenville, Furman comes from 17 points down to win in overtime, 44-37. And there was one point, John, where it looked pretty dismal for the Paladins. It didn't look like they had much of a shot. And then next thing you know, they're popping off they had like a 30-something yard touchdown strike and then a 75-yard screen pass, and they're back in the game. And
this is a good place to call the tight end screen, throw it back all the way across the field, which actually was a brilliant play call.
He was flying too. I've not seen a tight end run that fast before.
Well, we talked about it, but like Furman gets their tight ends, they're like receivers. So like it creates a mismatch.
Yeah.
They get these tall, lanky guys that can run. So like that's been one of the things that's been successful for Clay Hendricks' team since he's gotten there, is having a tall, lanky, fast tight end.
Yeah.
Maybe not as big as some of the other tight ends around the league, but certainly as athletic, if not more.
Yeah, and look, we were talking before the show and talking on Saturday and everything. Look, Furman's defense didn't play terribly. There were a couple of plays.
They actually played pretty well. I mean, there was a couple of busted.
There were a couple of plays, busted plays that Samford was able to pop on Furman. But the big things were you had the the pick six thrown by Hamp Sisson.
Yeah,
Early
the
in the
punt
game,
return.
and then the punt return touchdown. Those
Right.
big.
Those hurt, and
Those did hurt. And look, you you were joking before the show. For some reason, Hamp Sisson decided he was going to start playing there in the fourth
yeah,
quarter, and that's
he
when he
got it
got
going
it
there in the
going.
fourth quarter. And really, I felt like on that drive where he had the rollout to DeLuca, he flipped a switch, and just he started seeing things different. It seemed like he got more comfortable. I don't know why that is exactly, but he just seemed like, all right, it's time to get us, bring us back right here,
Yeah.
like, and
A
you
good
know,
win, a good win for Furman. In a way to come back like they did. That's a good
it's a
it's a good
character,
win. Yeah, it's a character builder for that team, and hopefully that just propels them forward as they get ready to face ETSU next weekend or this coming weekend. Look, they've had a tough 1-point loss, and then the very next week they were able to come from down pretty big to come back and win in overtime. So hopefully they can kind of build off of
yeah.
that moving forward. If you're Samford, this is now two games
Oof,
this season
yeah.
that they've had the lead and let it slip away.
What did they had a 17-7 lead at ETSU, I believe.
I believe so. 2 scores
And
against ETSU and then 2 or 3 scores against Furman.
yeah, and so it's kind of, you wonder what their fans are thinking right now.
Yeah.
There was a good number of them in Greenville on Saturday cheering, and I'm sure mostly like family members of players, but it gave it a little bit more of an atmosphere than say maybe the Western Carolina game, where I don't know if there were any Catamount people there,
I mean,
but yeah, it was a good football game. I
yeah,
mean,
it was. It was a good one.
and Samford, I feel like they're talented. I just think it's been a tough way to start out in the spring.
Yeah.
But they still have the win over Western under their belt, so at least they have that, I guess.
But they've got both teams combining for over 900 yards of total
Yeah,
offense in the game.
and I'm not sure. Samford, who do they have next week? Do they have they might have VMI. I can't remember.
They have Wofford.
Wofford, okay.
Yeah,
Wofford's a team that they've won like 4 in a row against, I think.
yeah. So maybe there's a
Which is
win.
crazy.
Maybe there's a
Yeah,
win.
maybe there's a win, and that's at Samford
That game's in Birmingham. So maybe
down there at
remember
Seabrook
last year, John.
Stadium.
Remember the game last year, John, where the stats didn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
it was like what the score was like 14-10 or 14-7 or something like that, or
Wofford
21.
Wofford had the ball for like 40 minutes and ended up like
Yeah,
that game.
yeah, and they were like, it was like, what did they just bog down in the red zone the whole game? I mean, like
It's crazy. No,
one of them they threw an interception in the end zone. Remember, one of them was like.
Yeah.
It really, you had to just go back and look at the play-by-play. The stats were so crazy. You almost had to go back and look at the play-by-play of that game. It's just
so that one should be fun. There's actually a couple of interesting matchups. Furman ETSU will be a good one.
it's getting It's getting somewhat intriguing. Like because
I'm a little interested in the Mercer VMI game. That game up in Lexington. And then how about this one, John? Somebody's going to get a win between the Citadel and Western Carolina.
you got to feel like that's the Citadel, but the game is in Cullowhee, right?
That's right. The game's in Cullowhee. You never know.
Maybe that's the game we should try and get up to. What?
The game's at 1:00 on Saturday.
We should definitely. I think the one we should probably get to is, I don't know if it's in Cullowhee or Johnson City. It might be in Johnson City this year. East Tennessee and Western. That'd be like the
Games
the
in
Blue Ridge border battle.
Games in Johnson City.
Or there's also I feel like a game that would be fun is like the ETSU Chattanooga game.
The railroad tie.
The railroad tie. Yeah.
It's good.
We got to figure that one out. We're gonna get in one of those.
Yes, absolutely. So it was a good weekend of Southern Conference football. Got another good weekend ahead. But John, there was fireworks all across the FCS and some weird games all across FCS last week. How about Elon?
Elon, who had a win by 3 points over non-scholarship Davidson to begin the spring.
Nearly knocked off James Madison. It was almost the second week in a row in which the number one team was upset
by like a like a Robert Morris, and then Elon. But interesting. There's some question out there as to whether James Madison is even the best team in the CAA. I saw where that one of their student newspaper reporters actually had James Madison ranked as the fourth best team in the CAA, but they're number one in the country.
Who they have ranked ahead of them?
They had Delaware.
Delaware, yeah.
They had who else did they have? There's Villanova.
Richmond.
They may have had Richmond. I'm not sure about that one, but I know they had Villanova. I know they had Delaware.
Look,
maybe
Delaware,
New Hampshire. Was it New Hampshire was up?
Maybe Delaware just stomped all over Maine, 37-0, in a game where you thought the Black Bears would get the better of.
Apparently the winner was harsh up in Orono.
Yeah.
So that game was, there's a rivalry trophy game coming up. You need to look it up. Is Maine and New Hampshire? I want to say they play for like a musket or something. It's pretty cool. I think it's New Hampshire and Maine.
It is the battle for the Bryce Cowell musket.
Yes. We've got to keep our eye on that game.
Yes. The Bryce
Cowell musket game.
Musket. Their next meeting, April 17th is when they play.
Where is that? If it's in Orono, Maine, we should like proposition them to pay our way up there. Be like, hey, can you like negotiate a way for us to come cover your battle for a musket?
Maine has only won 5 times since 2000.
See, it's been pretty safekeeping for New Hampshire, right?
New Hampshire, yeah. I was going to say so. No, I did not know that was there.
Where is that? I wonder where the game is this year.
I'm not sure. I didn't catch it.
You didn't have your Maine media guide out?
No, I didn't pull up the Maine Black Bears media guide for that one. How about Gardner Webb and Presbyterian? That was an interesting game. Close one between the Blue
one that Ryan McGee had his eye on.
Yeah. But no, there was some interesting games. North Dakota State rebounded, got a 25-0 win over Missouri State for the Bison.
What about Youngstown State this weekend? What, they scored more points than they've had all season.
Yeah, they did, because they scored 7 in their first 2 games, and then scored 22 against Southern Illinois, the very team that beat North Dakota State a week ago.
Right. So North Dakota's still sitting pretty in the Missouri Valley.
Yep, North Dakota, they're looking good right now. I believe, I'm trying to think, who do they have?
They played South Dakota on Thursday, or was it Thursday night or Friday night?
Let's go look and see if they played this coming weekend. But
they're playing North Dakota State sometime soon. Right? It might be this weekend.
Now, North Dakota State's got Illinois State this weekend.
Okay, which is also a big matchup.
Western Illinois, they got the Leathernecks. This week.
Well, like the Leathernecks were picked pretty low, I think, in Missouri Valley this year. You got to feel good about North Dakota's chances getting to that North Dakota State game undefeated.
Yeah. I think that game's at the end of the month, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. And I glanced at North Dakota's schedule, and I don't really think they have a challenge up to North Dakota State. And North Dakota State, if you look at their schedule, the Illinois State's very good. A team that routinely has given them challenges in the past. even when they've been as good as they've been.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, we'll get back on Thursday, just a couple of days from now, and look ahead to this coming week's football schedule.
Yep.
Going to be a good week of FCS football, especially games here locally with the Southern Conference. Make our picks. We had a good week this past weekend with our picks, so hopefully we'll keep that momentum going into next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Should be an interesting week for the Southern Conference. Some big matchups on tap. Furman, East Tennessee State, probably be one of the highlight packages, of the weekend around FCS football. And then also the Furman Chattanooga time was changed to noon because that will be a TV game now.
There we go. Where's that going to be on?
That's I think it's going to be on. Is it WCY, WYCW?
Oh, okay, Mike 40, yeah, the
yeah.
CW around yeah, locally.
So that'll be like the Ingalls SoCon game of the week in a couple of weeks against Chattanooga.
Pete Yannity, baby. Pete Yannity.
Yeah. He does a great job with both basketball and football.
Yes, absolutely. So looking forward to that. Head on over to Facebook and Twitter and like and follow the Spread podcast page on there. You can catch all of our replays of each show on social media, on YouTube, as well as we create little highlights from each show, upload those up on YouTube as well. So, John, looking forward to Thursday. We'll get back here. This has been The Spread.